Paraguayan Electoral Court announced ruling party candidate Santiago Peña as the winner of the presidential elections. And the worldwide workers mark International Labor's Day, largely marked by demonstrations that shows outrage from the working class against the policies, living costs, and working conditions. And tens of thousands of Sudanese and foreign nationals crowd Sudan's port, trying to escape the fighting. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. And now we begin with the news because Paraguay's Electoral Tribunal declared the ruling Colorado Party, the candidate Santiago Peña, as the winner of the nation's presidential elections 2023. According to the electoral institution, after more than 99% of the votes counted, the Peña Aliana ticket received 42.75% of the votes, while the runner-up formula, that of Alegre Núñez, from the new Coalition for Paraguay, got only 27.48%. On the third place, with 22.93% of the votes, was the candidate for the far-right National Crusade Party, Paraguayo Cubas. The presidents of Argentina and Brazil, Alberto Fernandez and Lula da Silva, respectively, as well as Paraguay's sitting president, Mario Abdo Benitez, were the first heads of state to congratulate Santiago Peña and his running mate, Pedro Ayana, for their electoral victory. The president of the Superior Electoral Court of Justice, Jorge Borgarin, thanked the citizens for their participation in the elections.
Before 8 p.m., being 7:55, and having been scrutinized more than 90% of polling stations, we are able to say that our trap system gives us as a result what you are seeing on the screen. Simply thank you. Thank you very much to all. Have a good night.
And the presidential candidate for Colorado Party, Santiago Peña, addressed the nation after winning the presidential elections and ratified that he will not let the people down.
Let us forget about the fatalism that we are doomed. We are the owners of our own destiny, of our future, We are not going to let you down.
Likewise, the former presidential candidate Efraín Alegre said after the election results that in spite of their efforts, they did not achieve the goal they had in mind.
We have made an important effort to unite all sectors to make a change, and today the results show us that our efforts may not have been enough. Although it is true that the majority of the Paraguayan people voted for change, the division has made it impossible for us to achieve the goal of making the change that the most Paraguayans are demanding.
On Sunday, several presidents of the region spoke out via Twitter on the occasion of the general elections in Paraguay and expressed the recognition of their new president-elect, Santiago Peña. Argentine President Alberto Fernandez joined in the congratulations in a telephone call to the new president-elect and wished an excellent future for the brotherly Paraguayan people. For his part, President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva of Brazil also hailed Santiago Peña's victory at the polls, wishing him good luck in his mandate and insisted on the importance of strengthening bilateral relations between the two countries and continuing the work for development, prosperity, as well as unity in the South American continent. For his part, Luis Arce Catacora, the president of Bolivia, congratulated the brotherly people of Paraguay and the president-elect Santi Peña on his victory in an election that reaffirms the strength and democratic maturity of Latin America. He stated that he looks forward to continuing working together for the benefit of the peoples and for the regional integration. Likewise, Gabriel Boric, the president of Chile, congratulated the president-elect of Paraguay, Santiago Peña, for his triumph and all the Paraguayan people who took part in the election. He highlighted the need to continue working together to strengthen relations between the countries and of all of Latin America. We move on to other topics. Costa Rican authorities reported 78 homicides in April, surpassing January as the most violent month so far in 2023. With only hours to go before the end of the month, a new record in the rates of violence was registered in Costa Rica, surpassing the 73 reported in January. According to reports from judicial investigation agencies, the recent killings occurred in the city of Orontina, where a 23-year-old young man was killed by 5 shots, while in the community of Pocosí, a 25-year-old man was killed. Finally, this number of murders exceeds the number of murders registered during the same time in 2022 by 89. The U.S. President Joe Biden has issued an executive order authorizing the possible deployment of active duty reserve troops to the U.S.-Mexico border to combat illegal drug trafficking. The latest executive order directs the secretaries of the Navy, the Army, and Air Force to call up active duty reservists. It similarly authorizes the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security to order the Coast Guard to call up its reserve troops. Biden's decision comes after Texas Governor Greg Abbott repeatedly asked him to designate the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and sent 8 letters to the president regarding border security without a response. Let's take a short break. But first, remember you can follow us on TikTok at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In France, workers gather in the district of Maurepas to participate in mobilizations of this Monday, May the 1st. The rallies will be mainly focused on the defense of the rights of the working class and the rejection of the government-backed pension reform. Mobilizations are expected to press the ongoing discussions between the government and the main workers' centrals. Numerous demonstrations are expected, with the most important ones in the morning in the northern cities of Rennes and Nantes. Also on Monday, trade union movements around the world began commemorations for International Workers' Day. In the Philippines, thousands of workers held a peaceful mobilization through the streets of Manila and other cities in the country. Likewise, a massive protest took place alongside Spain Boulevard, with thousands of workers from trade unions under the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines calling for an increase in the minimum wage and the government to put an end to the contractualization. They also highlighted the importance of the date, honoring unionists and workers from McCormick Reaper plant in the United States city of Chicago, who on May 1st, 1886, combined to make the city the center of the national movement for an 8-hour day. Thousands of workers in Indonesia have joined the mobilizations for the 1st of May. The demonstrations have spread through the streets of the capital Jakarta and other areas of the country, demanding better working conditions as well as wage increases for workers and respect for the rights in their struggle. Thousands of workers from the country's 2 main general unions are mobilizing in central Seoul, South Korea, to commemorate Labor Day. The Korean Confederation of Trade Unions called for a World Labor Day convention in the central district of Jogno on Monday, where they are expected to announce a general strike for July. Meanwhile, some 50,000 members of the Korean Federation of Trade Unions are set to hold a National Labor Congress. Also in Kenya, on Monday morning, the Labor Day commemorative activities began. The activities are held at the Uhuru Gardens in the capital, Nairobi, and are led by the President William Ruto, the Vice President Rigathi Gachagua, and the First Secretary to the Cabinet, Musalia Mudavadi. According to local press reports, unlike previous years, the event appears to be poorly attended due to rainy weather. The Nairobi County Police Chief, meanwhile, said a decision had been taken to require the coalition of main opposition leader Raila Odinga to refrain from calling for demonstrations on the date in the city. Now we move on to other topics. In Russia, authorities recorded several earthquakes in the vicinity of the Shiveluch volcano in the Kamchatka Peninsula. According to the Geophysical Service of the Russian Academy of Sciences, a total of 15 earthquakes were registered in a single day in the surroundings of the volcano, and at the same time, they indicated that the volcano could spew ashes at 15,000 meters. It was reported that the tremors occurred at a distance of 80 to 90 kilometers from the locality of Usk-Kamchatsk, and the strongest of the registered quakes had a 4.2 magnitude. Authorities urged the population to take safety measures in view of the situation. And the new constitution of Uzbekistan was endorsed by more than 90% of the people who took part in the corresponding referendum. This was announced by the Central Election Commission. According to the report, 15 million people voted in favor of the constitutional reform, which means a support of 90.21%. Meanwhile, the Electoral Authority reported a turnout of 84.54% of the electorate. From now on, the new constitution will come into force once the Electoral Commission publishes the results of the referendum, which should happen within 10 days after the vote. In the United Kingdom, the nurses' union went on strike after salary negotiations with the government failed. Health authorities said the strike is one of the largest joint actions so far, while warning the patients about the possible delays in services during the strike. In this sense, the National Health Service and the union leaders agreed to guarantee care in critical areas such as intensive care and trauma services. For its part, the British College of Nursing assured newborn and pediatric care will be provided to safeguard the lives of citizens during the protest. The Pope Francis said the Vatican is involved in a peace mission to try to conclude the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The Pope's announcement comes hours after Moscow claimed that its forces took control of 4 more urban quarters in the front-line Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. The High Pontiff has pleaded for peace practically on a weekly basis since the conflict began a year ago and has repeatedly expressed his wish to act as a broker between Kiev and Moscow. The 86-year-old leader of the Catholic Church had said previously that he wanted to visit Kiev and Moscow on a peace mission. And the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has announced that Turkish forces killed the leader of the Islamic State terrorist movement, Abu al-Qurashi, during an operation in Syria. The MIT, National Intelligence Organization in Turkish, had been tracking the alleged leader of the Daesh Islamic State, Abu Hussein al-Qurashi, for a long time. He was neutralized yesterday in Syria. In an interview with several national media, Turkish leaders said that the fight against terrorism organization continues without discrimination. This is the 4th caliph to head the Islamic State after Abu al-Hasan al-Qurashi, Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi, and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who was killed in a U.S. operation in Syria in October 2019. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries using StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. Tens of thousands of Sudanese and foreigners crowd Sudan's port trying to escape the fighting. As different countries continue evacuations of their fellow nationals in the country, they are also coordinating actions to help those fleeing in search of safety to get out. Last Saturday, the United States successfully evacuated hundreds of its citizens from Khartoum, who are now safe in Port Sudan on the Red Sea and are waiting to be transferred to Saudi Arabia in the first operation of this kind since the war began. So far, at least 528 people have been killed and more than 4,500 injured in the fighting, according to the United Nations. And a Palestinian teenager was killed in the early hours of Monday after clashes broke out during an Israeli raid on a Palestinian camp in the occupied West Bank. Jibril Muhammad Kamal al-Lara, 17 years old, was announced dead by the Palestinian Health Ministry after being shot directly in the head by Israeli troops and was laid to rest hours later. The ministry said another 6 civilians were wounded, including 3 in critical conditions. Israeli special forces stormed the Akubat Jabr camp in Jericho at dawn in a manhunt, resulting in a clash with residents and resistance fighters in the camp. Akubat Jabr camp has been raided repeatedly by Israeli forces in recent months, like other towns across the West Bank. Injuries and arrests were reported elsewhere on Monday, as Israeli forces also stormed the Nur Shams camp in Tulkarm in the West Bank's north. The foreign ministers of Jordan, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Egypt met in Amman to discuss the situation in Damascus. The meeting will assess the relations between these countries and the Syrian government, their proposals, and the Jordanian initiative to reach a political solution to the crisis in that country, said the official spokesperson of the Jordanian Foreign Ministry, Sinan Mejali. His government, he explained, proposed to form an Arab group to discuss life with Bashar al-Assad and detail a plan of steps to resume full diplomatic ties with the Arab League nations. As part of these reapproaches, senior representatives of al-Assad's government traveled to neighboring nations to discuss ways to reach a political solution to the crisis in the nation. And humanitarian assistance is steadily arriving in Syria from several countries to help the Syrian population overcome the aftermath of the war and recent earthquakes. In this regard, more than 270 tons of Russian humanitarian aid arrived abroad of 10 planes, and the military of this Eurasian nation began to deliver them to those affected. In this regard, 5 tons of food, mainly rice, sugar, tea, milk, and oil, were delivered to the villagers of the town of Sanaberayeh in the province of Latakia. The villagers of the town of Kelekele in the northern province of Sueda also received baskets with food. For its part, Latakia Governorate received a new batch of aid offered by Pakistan and includes 24 containers of supplies and food. The Jordanian embassy disclosed that his country sent 10 trucks with humanitarian, medical, and food aid. According to the report of the High Relief Committee, the number of registered families left homeless due to this natural disaster reached 91,794, with 414,304 individuals. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.